Hi, welcome to my compound life, where we build assets, build habits, and build freedom. Okay, and that should hopefully be financial freedom for all of us. Thanks for watching. I'm your host, Jonathan, and it's good to see you. Please hit the like, hit subscribe, so that you can follow my content. I try to update on a daily basis, so please subscribe, and essentially you can become my 10th subscriber. And at the same time, drop a comment and let me know who you are, the 10th. Okay, so I'm gonna play a few series of Tom Lee's video. I think it's interesting for all of us to watch. In yesterday's video, I spoke about the setup. So after the 4-year cycle, it does seem there's a whole new setup coming, essentially from how liquidity flows in, the business cycle driving this. So I'm going to play a few of Tom Lee's clips. The setup is starting, right? And although it is starting, I want each of you to consider a few things, right? Stocks and shares is already all-time high. Okay, your S&P 500, your Nasdaq. If you simply just look through the stocks and shares performance, everything's up, performing exceptionally great right now. Okay, and at the same time, Bitcoin recently did its 126K all-time high sometime in October this year. So to many Bitcoiners or many whales that hold Bitcoin, the 4-year cycle is already ended. So, of course, we know that this time around it's slightly different because the business cycle is starting. Liquidity is flowing. It will flow in, right? But taking into consideration of that, if whomever holds Bitcoin previously, right, that side of the liquidity already flown out, okay? And highly unlikely they're not coming back. They won't be coming back anytime soon until the next bear market for the next cycle, right? Which we anticipate would be sometime in Q4 next year, okay? So as mentioned earlier in my other video, the setup is perfect. It will only be perfect if it follows these 3 or 4 things, right? Number one is rate cut. December rate cut needs to come in. It does seem it will come in, but would it be 25 or 50 basis point? I think Trump wanted more, right? So we'll see how that goes, right? But having just rate cut, it's not going to give an immediate boost onto a lot of our assets prices, right? QT will end quite soon, hopefully, right? It's not for sure, but hopefully it will end. QE starts in sometime in January next year, right? And the fourth thing, the most important thing, the money printer needs to come in, right? Money printing needs to come in. So, but having considered that, right? The Fed, the US Fed, not going to print unlimited to an existing all-time high market, right? So we are in the existing all-time high market, okay? So that's what I want all of you guys to consider, okay? So watch Tom Lee's clip, and then maybe you guys can pick up something from it.
When I look ahead at 2026, I think it's a really attractive setup. Monetary policy's been tight for 3 years now, and we're just beginning to get some easing, but we also have a new Fed chair, and I think that the idea is to unleash and improve monetary liquidity. That's a big tailwind. The business cycle has been muted for the last 4 years. The ISM manufacturing, which is a measure of business activity, has been below 50 for 36 months. It's the longest stretch below 50 in the history of the ISM survey. It shows you business confidence has been muted because of inflation and then Fed tightness and then policy uncertainty and tariffs. But that all clears next year. And we know that investors are very skeptical because sentiment remains negative and people talk about an AI bubble, but measurable surveys like AAII show people are negative. And that's a contrarian tailwind because when everyone's bearish and they're sitting on a lot of cash, then if the market moves away from them, they're going to chase that. So I think that that's a formula that's very supportive of stocks next year. However, the timing is a little uncertain because we're coming off 3 years of really good gains. So I think that the first part of next year, maybe the market has to digest that a bit, but it should play out really strong.
Okay, so the Bitcoin 4-year cycle is indeed over, right? I think it's a given. We all accepted that and moved on, all right? Whichever whales, whichever OGs that wanted to cash out, already cashed out. Okay, so good for them. It's peaked at 126K sometime in early-ish October, right? But something for all of us, me and you, to take advantage of the business cycle, right? The setup is great for the future Bitcoin cycle, but this cycle, even if there's an uplift, will be minimal. Okay, so that's something we need to be mindful of, right? So don't let Tom Lee or anyone influencers out there to hype this up, saying that Bitcoin will be 2x, 3x, or 4x from here. It's not going to happen, right? Because OG whales, Bitcoiners, they already moved out, right? They already cash out into their stablecoin, and highly unlikely they're gonna come all the way back in just for the business cycle, right? So even for Tom Lee in the following clips, he talk about tokenization, heavy, TradFi adoption and so forth, right? Any of such talk will not happen immediately, okay? And perhaps it will affect the Bitcoin price, Ethereum price, or crypto prices in the next few Bitcoin cycle. But having the expectation that it will happen this cycle, it's highly unlikely, right? So we need to face the reality. And of course, I do personally believe that there will be improvements in terms of Bitcoin price in the coming few months. Would that be our exit? I think so, yeah. So is this a dead cat bounce, or will this exceed the previous all-time high? I'm kind of inclining to think that it will be a good dead cat bounce. If you need to exit, I think this is your second chance given to exit this. Okay, so bear that in mind.
Been disappointing the last few months because prices are down a lot. And when prices are down, first of all, we know the mood turns really dark. People get second guess, especially because price is so important as a signal in crypto. And now people are really worried that this is the start of the 4-year cycle of the downturn, which might last a year. So that's at the back of people's minds. But I would say people should be wary that price isn't always signal, because there's times when there's fundamental developments that are really building. And I see this in equity markets all the time, while price remains skeptical. I think we're in one of those moments because Bitcoin has become an institutional asset. So that's very different than the last 10 years. Well, really 15 years for Bitcoin. It's for the first time has a different buyer. And the US government just about to finalize the Clarity Act and some action regarding the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve. That's a brand new buyer. And on Ethereum specifically, there is a huge runway coming because of stable coins, which is a tokenization of a dollar, but it's just the start because we know that BlackRock and Robinhood and everyone else wants to tokenize everything on the blockchain. That's a big unlock of activity, which is going to happen regardless of whether prices of Ethereum and Bitcoin aren't going straight up, because these are innovations in financial products. So I'm in the camp that we have not really seen the peak associated with a 4-year cycle. In fact, in some ways, because of muted monetary liquidity and all the suppressed animal spirits, the market's been super concentrated this year. I think that the best prices are going to be seen next year for both Bitcoin and Ethereum. The way this is ultimately proven is if Bitcoin makes a new high before end of January, which I believe will happen.
Okay, so no doubt we are at the bottom for Bitcoin and Ethereum and a lot of other cryptos, right? But even if with money printing, right? Let me remind you, stocks, equity, everything are at its all-time high. Bitcoin recently topped, right? Investors are highly cautious, right? So expect more sell-off whenever there's a dead cat bounce. Okay, so I think recent liquidation event, right, where people saw their net worth, drop by 10, 20, 30 plus percent, right? I think they learned their lesson, right? At any bounce of Bitcoin, very likely, it's going to lead into more sell off. Okay, so bear that in mind. Don't be too overly optimistic about any of the coming bounces, and take profit. Learn to take profit. Okay, as soon as you're making good return, don't chase the top. Okay, learn to take profit. That's very important.
We know we're in the midst of a downturn for crypto prices. Bitcoin and Ethereum are the ones everyone is watching because they're the two largest, and Bitcoin, of course, is the flagship. I think we are so close to the bottom here, especially for Ethereum. I mean, the bottom could be happening this week or within the next 4 days. Um, and from there, we are going to have, I think, a V-shaped recovery because of the liquidity that's coming as the shutdown has ended, the U.S. government shutdown, and also because the central bank, I think, is tilting dovish, especially with a potentially new Fed chair. That, I think, should propel prices very strongly into the end of January. And that's where I think Ethereum, could be 7,000 to 9,000. And I believe Bitcoin is going to recover to past its all-time high by that time.
Okay. So after watching all of this Tom Lee's clips, I think to a certain extent, I'm still a Bitcoin bull, and hoping that Bitcoin continuously go up because of the technology adoption, where more and more people are finding Bitcoin as a good store of value, right? But at the same time, for my swing back, right, I look to exit. So by the time we get to 100,000, yes, I will pound cost average out. But at the same time, if you are new investors to Bitcoin or Bitcoin ETP, ETN, ETF, or whatever, right? If you're new, I think it's good to enter. But don't go lump sum in, right? Because something tells me, everything is not done deal. Everything waiting for the Fed, it's not set in stone. Whether will we get the actual money printing, it's not fully definite yet, right? So from that sense, don't go all in, don't go lump sum in, and that's a piece of advice I want to give to all of you guys. But at the same time, if you're looking to exit, I think we have been blessed enough to be given this opportunity to exit in the next coming few more months. So take advantage of that. Don't be greedy. look into taking profit on the way up. Don't be greedy, and yeah, just make sure you take profit, or otherwise you're gonna have to hodl your bag for another 4 years. Okay, so thanks for watching my video. Please hit like, please hit subscribe, become my 10th, leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, bye.